Lying. Let's talk about it. As believers in Jesus, can we all agree? Do we all agree that lying is sin? In that we should never lie, ever? Right? The Bible has some pretty clear words to say about lying, and it's not good, you know? So don't lie. Never lie. So we all agree. We're all on the same page here. Lying is wrong. Now, I want to try to sound, how do I put this? Not judgmental when I try and talk about this. But it's just something that's been on my mind a lot, and I don't necessarily have any specific right or wrong answer when it comes to this. So just bear that in mind when I say this. But this is something most people use. Most, I would say, Christians, or a lot of Christians use at least. Filters. Let's talk about them. I don't know if you noticed. You probably did, because yeah, I have a filter on. It's makes me look good, but also less human. Don't I look weird? Like I'm fuzzy, like I'm not fully there or something, like an alien? I don't know. And I did it because, well, I never use them on here because I personally feel like maybe it's lying. When you think about it, what are you actually doing when you're using a filter? You're trying to make yourself look like someone you're not. This isn't what I look like. I don't know if there's a way to turn this off, but you can look at my other videos. So, what am I trying to say here? Are you an awful person for using filters? No. But hold on. Like, what are we actually doing when we use filters? Aren't we literally just lying? Telling people that, oh, this is what we look like. And you might be like, no, they know I don't look like that normally. Not everyone. Certainly not. A lot of people are trying to make it look like that's what they look like or whatever. Or most people, they watch videos, they look at pictures, and most people can't tell or don't realize that there's a filter. So it's like, it kind of is manipulative, right? And isn't that a problem? I think that's something we should at least be thinking about. That should be on our minds, right? You know, and I think it's relevant to bring up the topic of makeup, specifically women wearing makeup, because guys, I would hope, aren't wearing makeup, right? But we live in 2025. Things get a little weird. But I know I've technically worn makeup for acting back in high school on the stage, but that's a very different thing, right? Very different context. But you know, that's something I grew up a lot hearing in church, was like, oh, no makeup, no, girls can't wear makeup, it's evil, it's sinful, the Bible says it's wrong. And it's like, that's one of those things where it's like, you have to learn to unlearn, because when you actually read the Bible for yourself, you find out that it doesn't it's not in there. What verse says you can't wear makeup? Now, I mean, I think, you should always go on your own convictions. If you feel convicted about it, don't do it. And I think that more or less is kind of the same thing or similar with filters, because that's technically, in a way, the same thing, right? Or a similar concept, if that makes sense. So I don't know. It's interesting, and I've definitely used filters before. I've used them plenty of times, on Snapchat. I don't know. So I'm not here to say like whether or not it's right or wrong. It's more of I want you to think about this, because I feel like a lot of times we may be doing something that's probably not okay in God's eyes, or not ideal, at the very least, but we don't think about it. So some of these videos I do on here isn't necessarily to give you any right or wrong answer, just to make you think about it. And I think there's a lot of significance, a lot of importance to doing things like this, to just bring up topics that you otherwise haven't thought about. And I don't know. It's something I think all the time about. I'm like, is this okay? Am I a liar for doing this? Because now there are people that think I look like this and I don't, you know? Can kind of see, like, look at that, beautiful. But we're beautiful just how God made us. And we shouldn't be ashamed of who we are. And it is hard. It is hard to, it is so tempting to be like, oh, but I could just throw a filter on there and I would look so much better. I don't know. I'm just saying, be careful with it, you know? Because isn't it lying? We're not supposed to lie. That's a sin. So, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, well, the Bible, it doesn't tell us anything about Snapchat filters in the Bible. That was written thousands of years ago, obviously. But, like, I think you could still probably find verses, well, literally just verses that say don't lie, I think you could kind of make that work for that context of, well, if this is lying, well, then this is wrong. And I think that's really my question. Is this a lie? And I'm sure there's a lot of differing opinions. But yeah, I don't know. Just something to think about. Because I'll be honest, I've seen so many people that I clicked on their profile picture thinking they were in their teens or 20s, maybe early 30s. And I find out they're a grandmother. It's like, no offense, but you're making yourself look like 3 times younger. I don't know. I don't know how to say that without making me sound judgmental. I'm just like, that's not what you look like. That's not you. You're trying to tell people you're someone you're not, right? Right? I don't know. It's hard to know exactly what to do with the stuff. How to go about it, what to think of, you know what I'm saying? And the reason that got me on this subject, that got me thinking about this to want to make a video tonight, is I spend a lot of time on dating apps, Christian dating apps. If you're a Christian and you're spending time on secular dating apps, what are you doing? Stop it. Get off of there. It's not good. You're just going to get yourself in trouble. Okay. What I'm trying to say is, I spend a lot of time on dating apps. And so I've seen bajillions of pictures of people's faces. But most of those aren't really what they look like. You'll like them because, oh, they look pretty in the picture, and then you find out more about them and you see what they actually look like, and it's like, they don't always look like the same person. No offense. And I gotta be careful with that myself, because it is way too tempting to just throw up your best pictures. Even if there's no filter, sometimes we look better than we do on a certain day than other days. And so, I don't know, maybe it's not the most honest thing, because it's like, when you're on a dating app, you should want someone to know who you are on an average day, not on your most absolute best, most glowiest day, right? I don't know. It's just something to think about. Lying, we gotta be really careful when it comes to lying. So, just something I wanted to bring up. And I hope this blessed someone. Enjoy this CGI looking face for another 2 seconds. Okay, God bless you guys.